Biology webinar series. So this is our third cancer biology webinar series. So we have today one of the renowned cancer biologists of India and worldwide, Dr. B.C. Das sir. Sir will be talking about cervix cancer. And we have a chairman of Amity Science and Innovation Foundation and the chancellor of Chhattisgarh University, Dr. W. Selvamurthy sir. Sir, welcome,
Namaskar.
sir.
Namaskar.
We have a panel members, all cancer specialists. Dr. Pankaj Sharma sir. He is a specialist research. His research focused in a prostate cancer. We have Dr. Manoj Garg, Associate Professor and Ramalinga Swami Fellow at Amity Institute of Molecular Medicine and Stem Cell Research. His research area is pancreatic cancer and blood cancer. We have now Dr. Amit Pandey. He's from Amity Institute of Biotechnology from Amity University, Gurugram, Haryana. His research expertise is in breast cancer and ovarian cancer. And we have a very innovative and young researcher, Dr. Pallavi Agarwal. She is an associate professor and Ramalinga Swami Fellow at Amity Institute of Molecular Medicine and Stem Cell Research. Her research area is ovarian cancer and cervix cancer, breast cancer as well. So October month, the worldwide is being celebrated as a cancer awareness month. So on this platform, today we are going to celebrate this Cancer Awareness Month, and Dr. B.C. Das sir will be talking about cervix cancer. And we have all the cancer specialists, the panel members. And these panel members will address any other questions if you have related to cancer. So these panel members will be able to address those questions. So feel free to ask any questions from audience side if you guys are having related to cancer. So with this, now I hand over to Dr. Pallavi Agarwal. She will be moderating this session today. So Dr. Pallavi Agarwal.
Thank you so much, Dhruv sir. It's a great opportunity for me to be here and with all the dignitaries here. And before I would invite Professor B.C. Das to deliver his lecture and also introduce him, I would like to invite Dr. W. Selvamurthy sir to kindly deliver his opening remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Pallavi. Professor Dr. B.C. Das, one of the great scientists of our country in the field of cancer, globally known, who has worked with Nobel laureates in US and Germany in the field of cancer. So Professor B.C. Das, my salutation to you. You are a great scientist who have delivered a large number of advancement in cancer biology. And you are also known as the father of HPV in our country, human papilloma virus, which actually causes the cancer cervix, which is one of the major killers, not only in India, but across the world. And Dr. Das, we are very proud to have you with us, who is a fellow of all the three major science academies, four major science academies, including Indian National Science Academy, National Academy of Science, Indian Academy of Science, National Academy of Medical Science. So he is a fellow of all the four major science academies. Very few people have this recognition. And a person who has created a pool of talents in Amity University today, and who has also founded the first Cancer Institute in ICMR, ICPO. He was the founder director to establish this ICMR lab and institute. And now it is NCPR. And then he was also director at the Ambedkar Center for Biomedical Research. and a large number of publications, patents he has in the field. And he's also creating future leaders in cancer biology and molecular medicine, stem cell research. These are all niche areas which will give solutions over a period of time. So we have such a distinguished the scientist in Amity University, who is also chairman of Amity University, Amity Institute of Molecular Medicine and Stem Cell Research. And he's also chairman of the University Research Council. He is also dean of the health sciences in numerous responsibilities. I don't know how he manages all this, but he's excelling in all the responsibilities he's undertaking. And he's also created a core group of the great scientists, young, budding, as well as established scientists, as a school in Amity University. Whether you name prostate cancer, here we have Pankaj Sharma. So we have Simran Tandon working on renal. Then somebody's Biswas is looking at liver cancer, and Dhruv, Manoj, and also Amit. We have created every field, whether it is head and neck cancer or it is oral cancer, pancreatic cancer, every aspect you have it in Amity. I don't think any other organization in the world will have this, that he has created this in such a short time. He has created an excellent facility, research facility. So who else can be the best person other than Dr. Das, who can give this the opening address today and deliver the opening the seminar or webinar today on the in the week the month commencing on the cancer. He is going to speak on this particular his research in the field. And also, I would like to mention that founder president, Dr. Ashok Chauhan, the chancellor, Dr. Atul Chauhan, Dr. Asim Chauhan, and all of us in Amity are trying to make Amity as research and innovation driven university. Just 1 minute. I'll just call you back. I'm on a webinar. I'll call you back. So we are on a mission to create the future leaders in science and technology and every field of science and technology. We would like to give solutions to the problems of the society. We want to emerge as number one in the country in research and innovation. So we would like partnership, collaboration, integration of all the efforts from across the Amity group, because we have 11 universities in India today, 17 campuses abroad, and also 28 schools. So we are trying to integrate all the talents available for this mission of transforming India into a knowledge superpower, which is the vision of our founder president, Dr. Ashok Chauhan. So he is passionate about research and innovation. So this is the most opportune time that we must, through this cluster, the first cluster we started, research cluster concept came from founder president. And the first cluster was on cancer biology. And we identified, consulted Dr. Das. He immediately suggested Dhruv Kumar is the right person. So thank you, Dhruv, for taking the leadership role in this research cluster on cancer in the Amity group. And you have already organized a number of webinars, but this is most important one by a most eminent the scientist and the researcher who is going to talk on this area. And this cluster concept is to integrate people, the talents within the group in the thematic area. So cancer biology today, we have more than 600 or 700 the participants who are watching this program. So cluster means integration, sharing knowledge, working together, sharing resources, sharing thoughts and ideas. So all this is very important for success and fast movement in research and development. So that is why your efforts are very important. Compliments to Dr. Dhruv under the guidance of Dr. B.C. Das. He's doing a great job in this cluster. And all the members of the cluster who have joined also today in this the 1 month awareness, the effort by Amity Group on the cancer domain. This cancer is still one of the major killers in the world today. In the non-communicable diseases, so you see the mortality, morbidity, and the economic impact due to cancer, due to the morbidity, as well as the death is very high. So cancer is still a major problem, and we have, the surgical removal, chemotherapy, radiotherapy, and which is giving in the management of cancer a significant impact. But then we need a proper treatment for cancer. So that is where Dr. Das is making a great effort in the early diagnosis, as well as in the prevention first, and the early diagnosis and quick intervention. And he is developing a triple conjugate. He will talk about it, where he is integrating the allopathic medicine and the traditional knowledge together. Now, with a known anti-tumor agent, curcumin, folate, he is developing a triple conjugate to attack cancer stem cell so that the cancer will not recur again. You are attacking the root cause of the disease, the etiological factor you are removing by cancer stem cell attack. So that is the innovative, disruptive research they are carrying out. And I will not take much of your time, and compliments to all those who are connected to this cluster, and also Dr. Das himself, who is championing, spearheading, leading this research effort on cancer. And may God bless you with good health, as well as all the energy and enthusiasm to take forward this mission in Amity for decades. And I'm sure you will create wonders for relieving the pain of the patients of cancer, and also finding a disruptive remedy and medical management protocol for the cancer patients, because you have already linked with more than about 15 hospitals in Delhi, NCR, and other areas, including Malabar Institute in Kerala. So you are already connected not only within India, globally, MD Anderson, and also the other hospitals abroad, like Cleveland Clinic and the Baylor College of Medicine in Texas. So you are already connected globally. So this will bring a new paradigm. And we are also trying to establish a cancer center in our Amity, New York, Long Island's campus, and for which Dr. Das will be playing a very important role. So with this, I'm so happy, Dr. Dhruv for this initiative, and Dr. Pallavi to coordinate the deliberations. And my best wishes for all the panelists who are achievers themselves. And to name those, we have Dr. Dhruv, Manoj Garg, Dr. Amit Pandey, Dr. Pallavi, and all those who are going to, and also particularly Pankaj Sharma, a very senior professor in Amity Institute of Biotechnology, who has done a great research in the field of the prostate cancer, which is again another major killer. So thank you very much for this opportunity. And I'm sure you will spread this message not only through the webinar, through a number of other activities, like you can give Amity Radio, you can spread. Then you can also make brochures and ICT materials and distribute, because we want to prevent cancer first. Then you look at the early diagnosis, and then the treatment and cure, and also the psychological aspects. The psychoneuroimmunology plays a very important role. If you see a woman who is the breast is removed, you can see that stress in that person, breast cancer patient. So you have to relieve the psychological stress, perceived stress, and coping strategies we need to provide besides the medical management. So you are also looking at the psychological aspects of cancer patients through proper counseling. So it's a great effort, and my best wishes for a very fruitful outcome of this cluster and endeavors of all of you. And on behalf of Founder President Dr. Chauhan, Ashok Chauhan, and also the Chancellor Dr. Atul Chauhan and Dr. Asif Chauhan, I convey my best wishes to each and every one of the participants who are present in this. Best wishes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Just
Thank you so much, sir. And I'm really grateful that you made my work easy, because there are so many achievements of Professor Das that it is very difficult to actually tell in a brief thing. So, but still, I would try to introduce him. Actually, he doesn't really need an introduction, but I would say that it's my great pleasure and proud privilege to welcome Professor Bhudev C. Das, who is our mentor, guide, teacher, and an eminent scientist in the field of cancer biology. He has made outstanding contributions in the field of cancer research, tumor virology, human genetics, and mutation research, and is well known as what Dr. Selvamoorthy sir said, that he is well known as father of human papillomavirus in India. Professor Das was founder director of ICMR, Institute of Cytology and Preventive Oncology, ICPO Noida, and later joined as Dr. Gurbaksh Singh Chair, Professor and Director of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Center for Biomedical Research, Delhi University. Currently, he is the chairman of Amity Institute of Molecular Medicine and Stem Cell Research and Dean Health and Allied Sciences, Amity University, Uttar Pradesh. He has worked several years with the Nobel laureate Professor Harald Zurhausen at German Cancer Research Center, Heidelberg, Germany. During the last 40 years of his distinguished research career, he has published more than 220 research papers in reputed international journals, which includes Nature, Lancet, Nucleic Acid Research, Oncogene, Journal of Virology, Hepatology, and many more to name, and distinguished himself as a renowned molecular oncologist in the world. In India, Professor Das has pioneered the work on human papillomaviruses that causes cervical cancer and also other cancers. Dr. Das is the recipient of President's Gold Medal of the Dr. B.C. Roy National Award of MCI, Sandoz Oration Award of ICMR, among several others, including the prestigious J.C. Bose National Fellowship. He is a fellow of all 4 major national science and medical academies. And also, he was the WHO expert advisor of the Global HPV LabNet and HPV vaccine program at Geneva for several years. And his laboratory was the HPV Referral Center of WHO for whole of Southeast Asia. So far, 36 PhD and 39 MD, MS, DNB, DM students have received their degrees under his supervision and guidance. So it's a great pleasure to have you, sir, and to have you on our Cancer Cluster webinar series. And now I humbly invite you to deliver your lecture. Over to you, Das, sir. Sir, I think you have to unmute, sir.
Dr. Das, please unmute the mic.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Pallavi, and also Dr. Dhruv, and above all, Dr. Selvamoorthy, for kind word of introductions. Thank you so much. I do not deserve that much, that you have given so much of prestige and honor to me. Thank you so much. And as before I start my talk, as you all know, this cluster, as Professor Dr. Selvamoorthy has mentioned, it is with the blessings of our none other than our beloved founder president, these are all his brainchild. That cancer cluster was first created, and then there are, I think, already 9 clusters are there, and they are all important clusters. I think that will bring a lot of people together and to build up, interneting with the same discipline people, and that will result into a lot of collaboration, a lot of discovery, that with the aim of for the benefit of the humanity and the society. So this is what is the main aim of Amity also. So with this few words, also the Chancellor and the Vice Chancellor and all are very blessings for theirs, for which we could establish an excellent center, the AMSR, Amity Institute of Molecular Medicine and Stem Cell Research. We have now several excellent researchers, and I think it has gone just 5 years or 6 years, but another, at the best, in a 5 years' time, we should be a center for excellence, and we will bring much more things which is of the human benefit of the humanity and the society. So, so I know there are several aspects I have worked on, but my first love is cervical cancer. Rather, my area is the women cancer mainly. So in some decade ago, cervical cancer is the #1 cancer. Now it has gone to 3rd or 4th, but still it is the #1 in the rural area in India. So, and breast cancer has come up big, but that is mainly in the urban area. So today, this title that Dr. Dhruv assigned me rather, that you talk about the cervical cancer and you have made so much of contribution, then where we stand today. Yes, it is excellent opportunity, and it is a good day. Rather, it is a starting of the Navaratri and Dasera, and also it is the month of cancer awareness in a month. So, in where we want to make these things. Just a moment. Sorry for the interruption. So today I will be talking mainly on the cervical cancer, and as Dr. Salomti has mentioned, this is a cancer which can be prevented, completely prevented or curable if detected early. So this is one of the cancer, is a great opportunity, but it is right the wording Dr. Dhruv has given where we stand today. If it is preventable, then why we are not able to prevent it? Why so many people are dying? More almost 1,20,000-30,000 people are dying. Women are dying, and 78,000 deaths every year. So this is very critical things to think, and we need to work hard and to make the public as well as the government to act on it, so that this can be one of the cancer which can be prevented, or it can be removed from the country, as the polio and others. So it is now the world slogan is that global free the global from the cervical cancer. So this is. But as I start this cancer, as you know, as a student of cancer biology, we know cancer is a genetic disease. Not that it is hereditary, but in the sense that the most cancer arise from the abnormalities in the expression of the genes, which are responsible for growth and cell proliferation. And cancer, we know in a simple sense, this is uncontrolled cell proliferation. So this proliferation is controlled by some genes. So but then there are at least 20% of the human cancer which are caused by the biological agents or the infectious agents, which are live. There may be virus, there may be bacteria, and many other live organisms that infect. So this is some list of the bacteria and viruses. You all know, I will not go into all this. Tell the hepatitis B virus, herpes virus, then Helicobacter pylori, and there are many other protozoans also that call colorectal and other Kaposi sarcoma in the HIV/AIDS. But then what we are talking today is the human papillomavirus or HPV that cause mainly the cervical cancer and partly the cancer of the oral cancer. Quite a good proportion of head and neck cancer is caused by this human papillomavirus. Cervical cancer is a third most, as it's told, third most or fourth cancer in the human worldwide. But in India, it is, I would say, it is number one still, because it is in the village side, they are the highly prevalent this cancer, and in the urban, it is the breast cancer. Cervical cancer is that the disease develops quite slowly and begins with a precancerous conditions known as dysplasia. And this dysplasia is easily detectable with the routine Pap test, though that Pap test suffers from a lot of false positivity, negativity. I will come one by one that how this disease burden, if you look at this, that the India is 1,32,000 per year, these people die, whereas it is a old picture of the world, there is 493,000, but it is now 570,000 deaths, the cancer cases, new cases, and deaths is almost 311,000. But India, it is 73,000, or it is increasing also, it is just fluctuates. So you can imagine, and in the comparison of the at least 20% of the new cases and 20% of the deaths of the world deaths is in India. So this is very high number, and we cannot do anything. We are not doing anything to control this cancer, which can be curable and can be prevented. So challenge is that you can understand the importance of this cancer to the women community, that among this cancer, Indian women, 200 women die every day. You can imagine the importance throughout the country. And approximately 8 women die every hour, and 7 minutes a woman dies because of this cancer. So you can imagine the extent of the problem. So infection of the human papillomavirus, it is now a lot of epidemiology study and molecular studies. And when it was Johausen proposed in early 70s, and then I joined him, I will tell that how it started my career, being a student of zoology and as a genetic specialization, cytogenetics. But I decided to go. At that time, I joined ICMR, and I joined Professor Johausen, who had just proposed and published a paper, cloned HPV-16, to show that this virus can be responsible for cancer, cervical cancer. And that time in 80s and 70s end and 80s beginning, that this cancer was topmost cancer in India. So I and my institute, ICPO that time, it is CRC was called, that was doing this study, population studies and all, but no molecular, or they were unaware of HPV and all. So that's how I joined there. I will just tell a few things later. The single most important etiological factor with several years of work, it has been established that cervical cancer, the major agent is the HPV. And this was done. I joined with him. Here is the picture. I am standing, lean and thin guy, discussing with Professor Johausen in the Heidelberg Laboratory in German Cancer Research Center in 1986 June when I joined. And that was after weeks after joining, and that I was discussing my topic and the research progress and all. So that time I joined, and the Nobel Prize came in 2008, and when I was director at ICPO. But then in this meantime, I had standing collaboration with him for almost 3 decades, and we have published several papers together, and that forms the also publication which has gone for the award, the Nobel Prize. So there I have also contributions along with, I feel happy and feel proud. And that is how from since 1986, I have been always associated, but in between I came and gone years, 2 years like that. So when I came back in about 88 January, first time after 2 years, so I first looked into what was our institute was doing, all the retrospective samples. The biopsy was kept, and then I cut the biopsy and do the in situ hybridization. And that I am just telling to young generations or the students to get excited, that I came back and started immediately the lab, and I did, there was not much things, but I did in situ hybridization by 1/6 to see that there are some 1100 cases were progressed to cancer, and it was not known, and they were progressed and they go to invasive cancer and they died, but their samples were there. The biopsy or the paraffin blocks were there. So I wanted to know, actually that time nothing was known about HPV here in India. So then I wanted to see, is those cases, those who have progressed and died of cervical cancer, I have the retrospective sample, whether these samples can have the HPV infection or not. So when I saw there is more than 70% who are having positive for high-risk HPV types, and that within a few months after returning from Germany, I published a first paper in Lancet. So showing that in India is cervical cancer number 1 and the HPV prevalence is very high. Later on, other papers we showed that almost 100% of the cervical cancer and precancer cases, lesions occur due to the infection of high-risk HPV infection. There are 15 types of high-risk HPV, but 16 and 18 are the most prominent types and oncogenic type that takes care of at most more than 80% of the invasive cancers. And there are many other 35, 39, many other types. There are more than 200 types are now described. But 18 and 16 is the most important. And there are 10 to 12 low-risk types. These are they are responsible for the benign lesions, and they cause the cornelemata acuminata and genital warts, and sometimes they cause a lot of warts in the body, say different parts of the body. So this is the HPV, the genome size. So it is around 8 kb, but I will come to that 75% of the genome cancer and 50% of the vagina and vulval cancer is because of 16 and 18. And that 90% of the benign lesions are anogenital warts. These are because of this HPV 6 and 11. You can see this is an interesting picture sometime back in Times of India. It was shown that the benign HPV 6 and 11, this is because of the HPV 11 infection, but it becomes so big. It is called a tree man. He is a fisherman, and his childhood in the adolescence time, he cut his knee, and from there it started. He contracted the infection, but he has an immune deficiency or vitamin deficiency also, and that raised to this. He's not dying, but then you can see the legs and hands. It has branched like anything, and that time it was not known much that how to treat it. So American doctors said that he should be given immune therapy, and as well as vitamin A can cure. But this was seen that was because of HPV. So this is a genome structure. I will not go into all the details, but there is a L1 and L2. This is the protein, the capsid protein, and they are responsible for their non-infectious. So they make the VLP of this protein, capsid protein, and make a lot of vaccine. Those that I will come last. But E6 and E7 are the two viral oncogenes. They only express only when they are controlled. Their expression is controlled by the enhancer regions or the long control region or upstream regulatory region, the black portion in the down, which is shown the enhancer, which contain enhancer. So this is HPV infection is essential, but it is alone cannot cause the cancer. It has to interact with the host factor or the host protein, and that host protein transcription factor is known as AP1. NF-kappa B or others also involved, but AP1 is most activated protein 1 is important. If it binds to this enhancer region, then only that leads to the promoter region, which is located in the URR. Then the E6, E7 gets they transcribe. But if it is no binding of the AP1 because of the mutation in the site of the binding, that leads to the complete shut-off of the E6 and E7 expression. So there is no carcinogenic effect. So HPV genome consists of the upstream regulatory region, what I told, URR, function as a transcription, it's a non-coding region, and it controls the replication. And an early region, it's called ORFs. There are E1, E2, E3 is not seen, but E4, E5, E6, and E7 are the open reading frames or the early genes which are responsible for replication, regulation, and host cytoplasm and nucleus, the modification, and the L1 and L2 are the viral capsid proteins. So more than 70% of the human get an HPV infection in some point of the life in any human, but 90% of the cases the body itself will clear this HPV infection because of their own immunity, but some 10 to 12% persist, and if they persist for a year, it takes though it takes 15 to 20 years to develop the malignancy. It persists for a year or two, then it will develop to it will get integrated and it will lead to the cancerous stage. So these are classification, you may not know, but just to tell you, there are several Bethesda classification, CIN classification, and WHO classification. So in WHO classification, in the it is called dysplasia, early dysplasia, moderate dysplasia, and severe dysplasia, and carcinoma in situ, and invasive cancer in the right side. And in Bethesda, the LCIL, HCIL, and there's a high, it is equivalent to the mild dysplasia as LCIL and CIN1, and it is, and it's in a cytologically, it shows a particular structure called coilocytes that indicates that presence of HPV. I will come that importance of that coilocytes later. So these are the classifications and different because this is a clinical classification, the CIN 1, 2, 3, and Bethesda classification, HCIL, LCIL, and invasive cancer. These are how these stages that the potent, how that proteome, transcriptome, and epigenome, all these acts modify during the process of cervical cancerogenesis. They are stepwise, but it takes 15 to 20 years to complete all these aspects. They initially remain as a episomal form, and that time they are in the early stages of the cancer, but once it is integrated, then it is difficult to remove them, and at the early stages you can prevent them, but once it is DNA is integrated with the viral genome, is integrated with the host genome, then it is difficult, then tumorigenic transformation occurs. This is a stage I have told that it is already on another slide I have told. So presence of high-risk HPV type indicates susceptibility to the development of cervical cancer. One must know, I know a lot of students and all the participants, you must know that just if it is detected HPV infection, it does not mean that you are going to have cancer, but you are susceptible only when it persists for a year or so. So persistence of HRHPV infection and its integration into the host cell genome is the critical step for the, so that takes at least 2 years, and then after integration also it takes another 10 to 15 years to develop the cancer. So we have a really good model. The human itself can act as a model to how it can be prevented. At that time it is easily preventable and easily curable. So this is the biological behavior that normal cervix starts with the, when there is HPV infection, when the normal cervix, that time you can give the prophylactic vaccine, which is 9 to 16 or 26 years. And if it is vaccine is taken, that time vaccine is effective. But if once the HPV infection occurs, then this vaccine doesn't work, like HBV, hepatitis B vaccine. So it doesn't work. So, and this HPV infection once occur, it gives to the HCIL, CIN1 or HCIL step, early stages or precancerous stages, but it goes to the persistent infection, then it goes to the CIN2, CIN3, HCIL, and then goes to the invasive cancer. There are several factors which contribute to that, it has been given. But in the beginning infection, 90% of the human papillomavirus clears within a month or two. But if say they persist, so there are all the easy detection method for the LMIC country, the underdeveloped countries or developed middle developed countries, like visual inspection, VIA and VILI and pap smear and conventional liquid biopsy, liquid test cytology. So these are very much in the use in India and elsewhere, but these things are not generally, not all public are available this facility, only selected institutes like AIIMS or some places like NICPR, my own institute earlier, this ICPO, they can do free of cost, one can go have the testing. But DNA testing is the most reliable. These are all 70% you can pick up with this visual inspection with the acetic acid, 5% acetic acid use. So these are diagnostic, but one important thing now to understand that how this cancer relapse and how that cancer originates. So you can see there is a ectocervix, endocervix, and ectocervix. You can see the colored portion in between, which is called squamo-columnar junction. The ectocervix is columnar origin, columnar cells, but in the ectocervix it is what you call is the squamous cells. So the transformation zone, this chain is called transformation zone, whereas a blue it is written the squamo-columnar junction or transformation zone. So here it is transformation occurs or TZ zone. If there is SPB infection, it will relate to the CIN create AN. But if it is there is a this is a place where new cells are getting generated. So this is a transformation zone. So if there is a pre-malignant or the early stage cells are hidden and SPV infection occurs, then they will create the cancer stem cell with SPV infection. And this is the test, screening test, which are used for various, I will not go into the detail, that the prophylactic, that Cervarix and vaccine, you are there, but if there is no vaccine, there are several herbal products and all there. I will come at later, besides the standard treatment when it is invasive cancer. But when in the early stages, it can be prevented, and it has been seen 80 to 90% clearance of the HPV infection, because that time then it is a topical use in the intravaginal applications, but if it is integrated, that time you cannot clear it. These are few of the risk factors you all know. The early age marriage. So this is what our first paper in Lancet in 89, I could show that this is there are 18 years. ACM is the consummation of marriage, age at consummation of marriage. So that's why that has implemented in India, that is our contribution in the, it has come as a policy that below 18 years you cannot give the marriage. But this is the origin, is our contribution. We could show that by those who are 18 years below who have got married, they are the highest one of the in the multivariate analysis. We could show in that Lancet paper that 18 years below marriage is not right, because the cervical regions or the genital regions have not mature enough to have the withstand the infections and immunity. So it is recommended that that's how it has come into existence. The marriage below 18 years is not it is prohibited in Indian law. So multiple partners, genital hygiene, pregnancy, number of pregnancy, it has shown that as the number of pregnancy increases, the infection rates, SPV infection rate also increases. There are many other factors. There are, I will not go into detail. So cervical cancer is curable, 100% curable if it is detected early. But still we have almost 130,000 people are getting cancer, getting infected every year. And general test is done, PAP test. With that, it was initially some 2-3 decades back in the US and Canada and Finland, organized cytology screening introduced in the whole country. And that brought to the 70% control of the cervical cancer. But India, there is no such organized screening procedure, except the Kerala state has more, they do the all screening maximum. That is the only state, pioneering state. But here it is cancer screening by Pap smear, which looks at that as you can see in the left side picture is the S-seal stage, means higher, is that severe dysplasia, but L-seal is the just beginning of the nuclear changes coming. But in the left side you can see there are a lot of nuclear fragmentation and changes. So this is the time, if you can detect, then by Pap smear it can be well treated and cured. And this is the invasive cancer stage. You can say early cancer, cervical cancer, where the 5% acetic acid is applied, simple as had by cotton swab, and you can see the aceto-white areas, And here in the right side picture is invasive cancer. So there are people dying of this cancer, but still there is no national policy on it. 5% has 20-30% false negative, and then low sensitivity 45%, whereas HPV DNA, if you do, is 96%. So both negative and positive results caused by human error, those who are cytologically screening, person to person it varies, sampling error, inadequacy. So if it is not there, the screener will say it is fine, but that is not true. Another virus, unlike other viruses, we do not have the serological test for the HPV, but recently after discovery of the vaccine, it has developed some serological test with the recombinant, based on the recombinant technology. So, but so far everywhere, all throughout the world, it is HPV DNA testing is the technique most important and is the choice of techniques. So we have this contributed a lot for the early detection. So some of the findings we have just that genome, HPV genome detection by urine sample. You know, if you have to take the DNA PCR, then you have to collect and the cold chain is needed, and you collect and then you extract DNA and do. But here it is, you can do, person can send the urine from home, and this paper was published in 1992 in Lancet, and all over the world it is being used, and it is easy to screen. And dry pepper smear, that urine or any other sample collected, you can put in the 3 mm filter paper, and you can store it in room temperature, and this can be used for the small bit of, you can put in the that tube and elute the DNA and do the PCR in the same tube. Similarly, the detection method by boiling, you can elute the DNA, you can do that. General virology methods, it has been published. Unambiguous detection, many a time false positive, false negative, and that often comes in the PCR, carryover PCR. So if you digest the HPV 16 and 18, which is mainly cloned in the BMH1 or E. coli, which are the cloning enzyme, you cut your sample DNA first with the cloning enzyme, and then do the PCR or hybridization, whatever you like to do, then you will get the very clear cut. There is no unambiguous detection of the HPV presence or not. That was published in Nucleus Research. Then there are prevention methods. They are all clinically trial has been done through ICMR and DBT, and it has been published, though established through clinical trials. The curcumin, and pronin, that is a product, the cream or the tablet from the neem, Azadirachta indica, and basant is the combination of several herbal products. So this is very much effective, almost 80 to 90% HPV in the early stage if one uses 1 month plus minus the menstruation period, then this virus can be removed, eliminated, get rid of this virus. It is important to look at that in US and Europe, the HPV prevalence is much early in the girls. They have the 16 to or 18 to 25 years or 16 to 25 years. Here you can see, here in India it is very less, but you see that there is almost 10-year difference, that it is 25 to 35 years, 26 to 35 years, where in India we have done this study, prevalence study in the women in India, in the young women in India. So we find that its prevalence occurs in the, there is a 10-year shift. In India it comes 10 years after. So this also we have done the HPV mapping of the whole country, barring 1 or 2 states. All the red places you can see, there are all HPV mapping has been done. This has helped now for the HPV vaccination, where it is, but picture may change. It was done long back, and it was a project of the ICMR and the UK collaborative project. And what we saw at that time is that it was long back. We have shown it was 2010, and then we showed that the HPV high prevalence is in Chennai, 88%, and and lowest is the Kashmir. And where there is a lot of Muslim population, they have some different hygienic care. That's why it is perhaps, but Muslim population does show the low prevalence. It is only 14% in there. So it is also important to show that adolescent girls, adults belonging to different tribes. We have gone to the Hosangabad in MP. From Bhopal, it is some 100 kilometers highway, and in Databara, in the Raipur district, where the red-fested area, and Jharkhand area, where we have taken these samples, and there are gynecologists who collaborated. It was one of my students who did this. It was when I was in DU, and it is a very difficult study, and in that we could find that in the tribal, the HPV in the young girls, adolescent girls, it is more than almost 13% prevalence. But in India, in the normal population, it is 4 to 5% or 6%. They are almost double. And if you go to little higher age, they get married early. They have a 19% of HPV prevalence. But if you go to the married women, they are 30, 35 or 40 years old, they are 35% positivity. So you can imagine the high incidence of this high-risk HPV, but there is no vaccine program, nothing is there, no medical opportunity for them. They are dying as such. So this is a very pathetic picture. And we did to see that adolescents girls to be given to the vaccine. So we could show long back in 2012 that the prevalence of HPV infection in Indian adolescent girls. There are several schools in Noida, we collected the samples, that is through urine samples. So there is no objection. So you give that self-collected urine they provide. In that we could do that study, and we could find that it's very low prevalence. Only 3% in the girls and 2% in the males, boys. So it is very low percentages. So one can go for a vaccination very rightly. So these are already, I have told what is the early detection and prevention methods, and the best prevention is by vaccination. So we have the vaccine and against women. I would say it is the first vaccine against any cancer, that is of women's cancer. And this hepatitis B vaccine is there, but that is against hepatitis B. It doesn't take care of it causes liver cancer, but liver cancer can be caused by many other reasons. But HPV is the major or the principal reason for the cervical cancer. That's why the HPV vaccine is we can say, is the first cancer vaccine which is there. Many of the women population, girls, students in the MSc, BSc level, I have gone for the Inspire talk. They do not know this thing yet. There is no awareness program. The Gardasil, there are 4 types, HPV 16, 18, and 6 and 11. Cervarix by GSK, it is a bivalent vaccines. So both are equally active, but recently it has been there. The last one, the Merck introduced 9-valent, nonavalent, it is called nonavalent. So this is also effective. Also there are approach to do, it is generally given 3 doses, but it is also preferred that 2 doses. In the left side you can see it is 2 doses, and both are effective. So why to go for 3 doses? One can go for 2 doses. Now the study is going on, if it is at all, can be done in 1 dose only. So that is trial is going on, but it is not yet. But target population in young adolescent 9 to 14 years, but it can be to the 19 to 26 years. And but other age group, higher age group may be taken, but they could test that if she is having infection or not, then she can take. But the immune response is little slow, but those who are young age, those are given the adolescent girls, the immune response is very high. So that is immune titer is very high, antibody titer is very high. There is not much side effects of the headache, fever is normal, but it is not very, but it has got a havoc because of the fact, so there is no symptoms when there is a HPV infection, generally no symptom, women cannot realize, but it may come if it is persisting, it will cause bleeding, discharge, and irregular bleeding, and itching, and all these things. That can be, one can go to the gynecologist and take it, and get the get it examined. So 70% of the cancer can be prevented of this HPV vaccination, and there are cross reactivity also. Other HPV can be also protected. Gardasil can be given to 9 to 26 years. Some percentage of the oral cancer also, and oropharyngeal cancer can be prevented, because some 30% or 25 to 30% are caused due to HPV infection. There is also very important part. I will talk about how HPV plays an important role in where it is causing cancer here, but in head and neck cancer, it has some beneficial effect. So there are a lot of ethical issues in India, but unfortunately there is no national immunization being undertaken, and nobody is thinking of that. But all countries throughout the world has done this, taken this vaccine. Acceptance of the parents, many think that it can wait until the girls gets married, and the cultural, religious, is moral issues, and they say that if they are protected in the early age, these girls will indulge into a promiscuity and teenage sex and all. So this is all. But what was done, the immunogenicity testing, done the human papillomavirus vaccine delivery strategy demonstration project by PATH, American organization PATH, this as well as India ICMR. So they did two tests in the Khammam district of Andhra Pradesh and Vadodara in 2000 to 2009 to 2010. But they did the school-based study, and school children were given, but 5-6 deaths occurred. But later on, it is proved to be not associated with the death of the with the vaccine. But they were taken vaccine, but they had died for the snake bite and any other reasons. But then Parliamentary Standing Committee on Health and Family Welfare, they submitted the 70-second report, alleged the irregularities in the conduct of the immunization studies using human papillomavirus vaccine. So by PATH and in India, so this American company, so they have suggested, and there trial was conducted directly on girls. So following this allegation, public health groups and irregularities conducting HPV vaccine, so it was ICMR banned it for, and that ban has not yet been lifted, and that's why no vaccine is given in India, no vaccine program or immunization program introduced in the national level in India. So, but it is highly safe and highly immunogenic and well tolerated, and it can prevent the incidence and the persistent infection. So this is first country, in more than 100 countries have taken worldwide. Australia is the first country to take this vaccine program. There is some change in the Japan. They find some adverse effect, serious adverse effect, so they stopped that. But later on, they also have started. In India, Nirja Vatla from ICMR, they did many of the they use study, and in there there are some 6 serious adverse effects, which as I have just mentioned earlier. But then they are very 3 doses, and it was 97% was very good and saved. They used the adjuvant ASO4, adjuvanted the HPV 16-18 cervical cancer, the vaccines, that is of the Cervarix vaccine, and it is well tolerated, and immunogenicity was very high, immunogenic. So Indian Ally Initiative Vaccine Program is WHO has it is now started in Punjab state. They have now state-wise they are taking, WHO supported that, and Punjab has introduced in Bathinda and Mansa this vaccine program within just last 2-3 years. And Delhi State Cancer Institute took the initiative to introduce papillomavirus in Delhi, and the world program and for school children, and but it has not yet come into the national under National Immunization Program. It is important to introduce in the National Immunization Program. So, so it also protect against, there are several attempts for this next generation vaccines that Nanovalent I have told. There are DNA vaccines. I will quickly go through the Genova Biopharmaceuticals in the Pune, and then Bharat Biotech in Hyderabad, L2 chimeric L2 HPV vaccine. DVT also itself started with Thristi and Gurgaon production of VLP based vaccine. And we have also my group in ICPO and MET Noida, we have vaccine. I will briefly tell, these are the vaccine under trial, but not much of the therapeutic vaccine. But what we have done, that we have screened the HPV variants. It differs from country to country. We wanted to develop a India-specific HPV vaccine. So India-specific variant, we analyzed the variants and we took, which is the highly prevalent variant, that clone we took, and then the major variation in the E16 and L1 we found. And this variation, and there is very not much variations in the E7, it is very conserved. So 7 nucleotide variations, and then I will not go much of this detail. 2 mutations were found in the PREM6 mutation. So this is showed that the change in amino acid and the vicinity of the predicted epitopes where it binds. So where I do not know the picture is, so we cloned, the cloning was done, the major variation of VLP in the E6 and E7 gene. So we selected that and cloned in the PGMT AG vaccine, vector and PCDNA 3.1, and this variant vaccine clone we identified, and then we did the evaluation of the immunogenic efficiency of these clones, the control group, and then the vector, and then experimental group. Several groups we done that. One group prototype VLP-L1 and one group with the prototype E6, another with the E7. The variant 100 microgram of this plasmid different variation DNA construct was injected, and then after this we did the genetic immunization of the VLP16 with the highly immunogenic, we found to be highly immunogenic. So DNA-based vaccine construct. So this is a chimeric vaccine to have the prophylactic as well as the therapeutic efficacy. So we did a serological assay, also detection of the HPV16 antibody. This we did taking the HPV16 mainly, which is highly prevalent, more than 70%. HPV18 is less. So antibody titer of the mice immunized with the variant, we found that the reference vaccine constructs, in contrast to the, we observed that V16, which is shown in between, is the variation was more immunogenic by showing increase in antibody titer. So on administration of the DNA vaccine construct, it was observed that PV16 showed the 2-fold increase in, whereas PV8 showed only 0.4. So one of the construct which was successful is the PV16, which has been now processed for the animal studies and animal clinical trial. So there are, this is the things which first part we have published, that identification of major HPV variant constructs and India, and development of chimeric DNA vaccine scientific reports. So this is already published, but the clinical trial in the animal, it is going on in the ICPO, and Dr. Mosumi Bharadwaj is my collaborator from there. So it is that this is a paper to show that what type of variants Journal of Clinical Microbiology publications, the human 16 variant analysis of E6, E7 and L1, which we have used for the construct development. So this we have our Indian patients biopsy has been taken, and from there we have analyzed the variants and then cloned, and that is the basis of that. So that's why that is not copied from anybody or any sequence we have taken. We have taken our India specific variant sequence. Though HPV is very is the carcinogenic agent for the I'll just take a second, please. Sorry, I needed water. Nobody around, so sorry for interruption. So this is a picture of the immunohistochemistry. You can see very interesting thing. While we are working on HPV and cervical cancer, and where HPV is the reagent that causes this cancer, but very interestingly, the cervical cancer, the HPV in oral cancer, or all that matter, all head and neck cancer, the HPV is that 30 to 35% HPV positivity which comes. Those head and neck cancer, including oral, esophageal, or oropharyngeal, these cancer show very good prognosis, which is just contrast to the cervical cancer. It gives a lot of they show, and this is what you see right side, the right side picture in the top. You can see that black spot. These are all you call it as a here you can see these are all you call the coilocytes. So this is indicative of the fact they are highly infected of the HPV, and they are very they demonstrate the presence of the widespread coilocytes in the oral carcinoma cells. So this indicative of the fact that HPV is a productive HPV infection in oral cervical oral cancer cells. And also you see that it is we have already shown in the International Journal of Cancer publication in this, and later on also in International of Cancer, that is in 2006 we proposed that, and in that this coilocytes that in this cancer, this it is NF-kappa B, P50 and P65. You see that P50 is highly expressed, but in the HPV negative, the P65 is not expressed. But in the HPV positive, the P65, you can see the coilocytes also. P65 is also expressed. So P65 is responsible for the good differentiation and the proliferation or the well differentiation of the tumor. So this is important, that as you know, there are three types of, from differentiation point of view: well differentiated tumor, moderately differentiated tumor, and poorly differentiated tumor. If there is a poorly differentiated tumors, they do not show good prognosis after treatment. But well differentiated tumor, oral tumors or head and neck tumor, they show better prognosis. Because of this, it is showing these coilocytes and expression of the coilocytes in the P65 stain also positive. So this because of this we have shown as the mechanism that how these cells are become well differentiated, and that leads to the better prognosis in the head and neck cancer if you treat the this cancer with the radiation or any other treatment. We have also shown the clinical cancer research that that the cervical cancer cells selectively overexpress HPV oncoprotein, and that is E6, that controls the systemness. So that I will come later on in some presentation, I will tell that. And also it is seen that this AP1 is, as I showed, is the indispensable part. This AP1 is binding is important, and this AP1 increases if you give the radiation. It is highly expressed in the cancer cells, but if you and the cancer tissue, but if you give the cancer cells exposed to radiation, then it will further increase the AP1 binding, more expression of the AP1. So recently we have shown in the project with the So in the BRICS project, collaborative project, where we have jointly shown that the hyper-branded this is a HPV E6 and E7 are the viral oncogene responsible for cervical cancer. We know a new kind of gene transfection material, hyper-branched copolymer HPPCS, this hyper-brand poly beta amino ester based polyplex nanoparticles for the delivery of the CRISPR-Cas9 system for the treatment of HPV. What does it do? That it is based on the E6, E7, as well as we have used the CRISPR-Cas13A for HPV 6 and 11. So that what does it do? That if you inject with this constructs with this nano constructs with carrying this the CRISPR-Cas9 system, so it can cleave the E7 genes, resulting in the downregulation of E7 expression and showing anti-tumor activity both in vitro and in vivo, and there is a reduction of the tumorigenicity and tumor reduction or a shrinking of the tumor. And that is a very interesting, very recently only, it is published in the controlled release as well as antiviral research very recently, but it is a collaborative with the DST. This is the project. This is the project which I have shown the results just now, but this project is still going on to identify a key genetic and epigenetic markers in cervical cancer carcinogenesis and development of corresponding molecular therapeutic precision medicine for cervical cancer. So in this, what you do, the identification of specific gene mutation, both epigenetics and other and non-coding RNAs expression which are specifically associated with this cancer, and then which are responsible also the stem cells in cancer and cancer stem cell. Both we will be looking at this gene mutation responsible for the progression as well as the relapse, and then to use the gene editing techniques to modify that. So that is what the project. It is in the middle of this project. We are in at it. Some part of the observation we have just I have just shown, and the development of also nano formulation herbal curcumin in exosomes for use of the tropical use. So also the validation of the new CRISPR-Cas9 genome editing tools for the therapeutic efficacy, one of the 2 papers that I showed. So in this, that recently it is in the press, the Lyon, France, it is shown they have used some 1,500 women. It's a multicentric HPV vaccine study to see that what is the prevalence of the HPV in 18 to 23 years women, and aging as a control, that non-vaccinated population from all over the country, and assess the type-specific prevalence, natural history, and potential determinants of the human papillomavirus. They showed that there are at least 35 or 36% positivity of these non-vaccinated young women. So this can understand the importance of this virus infection, that still it is highly prevalent in the population, and there is a need for. So recently we have this is the slogan of the world, that how to get rid of the global elimination of the cervical cancer, the impact of scaled up human papillomavirus vaccination and cervical cancer screening. These two can lead to the potential global elimination of the cervical cancer in 181 countries. This is the paper in Lancet very recently in the 2019 published in the Lancet, and we gave the rejoinder or the commentary with this. We read that towards global elimination of the cervical cancer in all groups of the women. There we have shown that although this is a very important that cervical cancer is a preventable cancer, you need to do early detection and then you prevent or treat or you go for a vaccination. So if these two are escalated or coverage is more than 90% or 100%, then there is a chance that the world can get rid of this cancer. That's a golden opportunity. Although the proposed model might be important in reducing cervical cancer incidence and high-income countries, but scaling up and implementing these programs in low-income countries, low and middle-income countries like in India, it's a great challenge. But still now, there is no attempt, nothing is there, no awareness, nothing is being done. This is very unfortunate in spite of such write-ups, such publication coming, and it has been very well demonstrated that it is highly prevalent in the low-income country or middle-income countries, and there is a need for this organized early screening program and vaccine program. The SPV is causative agent for cervical cancer. It is important to develop indigenous SPV vaccine, and that is a lot of attempts in India going on. The SPV presents a prevention, but still nothing has come into plate or in the market. Will requires vaccines, 1 or 2 doses. 1 dose or 2 days will be very good and optimized delivery. No cold chain should be needed. Second generation vaccines are the better alternative with the therapeutic efficacy. How much I can go? 5 minutes?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is
okay,
fine,
okay. Sorry, DNA-based chimeric vaccine that we have done. So now the last phase, that's 5 minutes. I'll complete that. The cancer control program is 2 things are very important for cervical cancer, that you do the early detection or prevention, that is by screening or vaccination. If it is failed, there is every day so many people are getting infected, then you should go for a targeted therapy. So surgery, radiation, chemotherapy are the or immunotherapy are the most common. Also, more than 70% of the cancer patient experience pelvic recurrence of the tumor, and they develop the increase in chemo resistance or resistance, and ultimately culminate into death. So it is important that the point mutations, as I told, the AP1. So AP1 binding to the URR region is very important. But if there is mutation in the AP1 consensus sequence within the binding site of URR of the HPV 16 or 18, it leads to the complete abolition of E6 and E7 gene. So that's why it is important that we target to because this E6 are target this transcription factor. These transcription factors are important because they the transcriptor participate at the end of these signaling pathways. There are more than 19 signaling pathways, and these signaling pathways, they are in the end of that, this AP1 or the transcription factor participate, and they cause up or down regulations of the specific driver genes and contributing to the tumorigenesis. And in the HPV genome, I have not given that because of the lack of time to see the URR region, but there is several sites E2 binds. E2 viral oncogene is responsible for the replication of the viral genome, but at the same time, they repress the transcription of the E6 and E7. But this repression is generally, transcription repression is relieved when the E6, the integration occurs, and that integration of the virus occurs when this E2 gene is disrupted. So that leads to the integration of the viral genome, and that's why it's a loop, the feedback loop with the E2 genes. I am not able to explain all because of the time. So, but what is important is that it is established that AP1 is indispensable HPV transcription of the E6 and E7 viral oncogenes. So AP1, what does it do? The binding has been shown. In cancer, it is very high binding AP1, but in the non-cancer, it is not there. So, but CSC shows increased AP1 bindings. Cervical cancer stem cell also show high AP1 binding, and this AP1 protein further increased if you expose to radiation. You see that 2 hours, 4 hours, if you give the radiation in the left side picture, the AP1 binding, it is a MJ study, the DNA protein interaction. So you see the AP1 binding increases, whereas is non-cancer stem cell, cervical cancer stem cell, no binding. It's a less binding in the normal, but it is down. But it is also all the members of the AP1, including E6, and they are all highly expressed in the cancer stem cells. So, but interesting to see that FRA1 is, you look at in the down GAPDH above, the FRA1 is not binding or not showing any expression here. But this is very important to show that in the cancer, if you take normal dysplasia and cancer, if you take this biopsy and analyze the CFOS FRA1, you see that as it reaches to cancer, CFOS is highly expressed, but FRA1 is down-regulated. It is highly expressed in the controls. So it has a tumor suppressor activity. But if you take the cancer cell line, HeLa, for example, in the right side, if you give the 100 micromolar of the curcumin, you see that by 2 and 3 hours, it is getting down. The CFOS is getting down, whereas FRA1 is getting expressed by that time. So that shows that how you can change the dimerization pattern, that dimorphic changes, that the AP1 complex can be changed, that the curcumin, that's why curcumin can reduce the AP1 here in the down picture in the binding, that it down regulates the AP1 binding. It means AP1, if it is high binding, it shows, it gives the radio resistance or chemoresistance. But if you use the curcumin, it will down regulate, rather it will sensitize the down regulate AP1, that leads to the sensitization. So the curcumin radiosensitization of these cervical cancer stem cells. These are all tumors here, and you can see the MSO control, but only curcumin, little bit of disintegration, and UV alone is less disintegration, but if we use curcumin and UV, it is completely disintegrated. And you see that FOS is down-regulated in the right side, the FRA1 is overexpressed. That's very important. In the tumor also, when you inject, the tumor is completely disappearing in the curcumin and UV, the right side below. And here it is also in the curcumin and UV, completely tumor is vanished. So it is because this is sensitizing because of the AP1 down regulation. But if you take the cells and see that the FRA1 is overexpressed, the others are completely down regulated. So AP1 inhibition leads to increased chemosensitivity of the HRHPV CSCX positive CSCSC cervical cancer stem cell. So inhibition of AP1 and this upregulation of FRA1 appears to be the potential therapeutic target, or the strategy can do, you can use that. So we have seen that the curcumin binds to the some other side than the thymotrimorgine, which is generally the inhibitor of ABCG2. This docking picture can be seen, it is binding to the some other side, not in the exact side where thymotrimorgine binds. So therefore, just 2 minutes, that we have exploited a novel folate receptor, which Dr. Selvamurthy initially introduction told, mediated targeted delivery curcumin. We have known that the curcumin can sensitize. They are down-regulating AP1 and overexpressing AP1 member, the FRA1. So curcumin in the curcumin along with the cancer drug, by developing a conjugate, we have targeted molecule, we have taken the folate. So we have made a triple conjugate, that the doxorubicin, you can see upper, and in between it is a curcumin, and that is a linker used. It is a click chemistry based the chemistry part, which my collaborator Dr. Sima Bhatnagar has done, and it's a joint collaborative project, and it is a folic acid is down. So folic acid acts as a this is a UV visible spectra for the curcumin and doxorubicin and the conjugate, and it has well proved that it says different spectra, and it is proved also by the cell cycle analysis of the HeLa, where we can see that the doxorubicin and curcumin separately, but they are, when you use the conjugate, its treatment leads to the G2, G0, G1 or the G2M arrest, cell cycle arrest, and also it increased apoptosis. These are the pictures, so it is very clear. So when we saw that in the in vivo, so far we have done in vitro study. Here you see that upper is the normal curcumin or other curcumin is used, but in the different hours of incubation. But if you take this conjugate, you can see that it is high. It is autofluorescent because of the curcumin. The curcumin triple conjugate exhibits improved uptake into the cells, contrast to the pure or the normal curcumin which is used above. So this is the beauty of this conjugate, is that it makes the curcumin in such a way, it has modified that it is bioavailable. It is generally curcumin is not bioavailable, it is bioavailable, easily dissolvable in water and easily absorbable. And the bond gets dissolved when it is folate receptor is expressed by the cancer and cancer stem cell, not normal cells. They are attracted, highly expressed, so it will go to the clathrin or caveolate pits, so it will get into the cytosol, and in the acidic pH in the cells cytosol, they will break the bond, ester bond, and then it will release the curcumin as well as the drug. So curcumin will do the sensitization of the cells, those cancer cells or cancer stem cells, and the doxorubicin will act. So generally doxorubicin will not act because they reflux out the drug, but then curcumin makes them sensitive. So that's how it is a picture to show that except lung, thyroid, kidney, trachea, and fetal lungs and placenta, all other tissues or the cells do not express folate receptor. Only these 3-4 which are expressed. So we reach to the conclusion of this my talk, that what is that all this study has led to the, there are many other aspects, but it is the non-toxic small molecular weight curcumin folate and acid conjugate, folic acid conjugate, which will specifically be taken up by the cancer cells or cancer stem cell by receptor mediated internalization due to overexpression of the high affinity folate receptor, and will yield free curcumin upon enzymatic cleavage of ester bonds. So thus the approach will improve the bioavailability and targeted delivery of the curcumin, and also prevent its non-specific metabolic inactivation, and make cancer treatment more effective and relapse-free possibly for the survival of the cancer, better survival of the cancer patients. So this is the stage we are at, the in vivo study, which is to go, which was to take up, but because of the lockdown we could not, and it is to be done. The in vivo study, in vitro study are all complete, has the appropriate proof, and this has been patented also. It is on the way of patents. So final stage it is. This is the group I have given, my earlier group from ICPO and Delhi University, not my present group, because they have contributed a lot, which I have presented just now. But I'm sorry, present group I have no slide. So thank you very much for your patience, and I will appreciate if there is any questions or anything.
Thank you so much, sir. It was such a, first we will make a clap, a virtual clap for such a intriguing and comprehensive talk from start to end, from basics to going to the advanced understanding of cervical cancer. And there are, of course, many questions. There was something like 26 questions, half of which were general. So we try to answer because we cannot take all the questions for the session. But I would start with taking up the question with your permission. So I would start with very basic question, more from the females, because of course cervical cancer is a female cancer and they have their own, curiosity about it. So this is from Sheenam Saloni, who's asking, how can we identify if we have currently cervical cancer? I mean, it's a very open question. So
yeah.
Up to you, sir.
Yeah, it's a very common question. So though HPV infection doesn't have any symptom initially, but that would be not too late. There will be some symptom if someone is little careful, that there would be some bleeding, irregular bleeding, every menstruation period, and some maybe white menstruations and some itching. So if someone feels some uneasiness, so infection can, it is a virus, so infection can come from any source, not because of the promiscuity or sexual contact. Without that also it come because of the adolescents girls, not adolescents, young girls. There are 8, 9, 10 years girls we have done in the schools, how they have contracted 3% of positivity. Means it gives already established that there are some other reasons it can come into contact through many other touching of the other things. Virus can come. So we know now, more educated now because of this corona. So it can come some other, not needed that it will be a it has to be blame someone that you have had some sexual connection with that. No. So but some symptom comes, one has to be little careful, but generally it would be only after 30. One should be very careful, only after 30. Very rarely it will come before that, but 25 onwards, that one should be little careful. So that is some symptoms will come. Yeah, but so one should not neglect that. That will be negligible, but one should not neglect that. Right.
So there is a connecting question from Sachdeva asking, what if person crossing 26 years of age, is there any way to prevent cancer?
Could you repeat?
What if a person crosses 26 years of age, is there any way to prevent cancer at that point? Because HPV vaccine is given more at an early age, and if somebody did not have...
No, it hasn't proved that up to 26 years, it can even, they are more effective for immunogenicity, for immune response is very good, the antibody response is very good. Up to 26, earlier it was 9 to 16 years, rather 13 years than 16 years. But I have said there are people... There are people who has taken in 45 years, 46 years. Because, but then, even if you take, if it is, you are having some infection, then it will not help you. But if it is, if you take, it will not help you, but then you have nothing. But then it is better you test it. And that is what is the most important opportunity we have given the public. Those methods are all over the world, people are using. That you sit at home, send the urine. You need not to identify anything. Submit the urine to any clinic. There are not a lot of places that give the HPV diagnosis. In ICPO and ICMR, ICPO and DU, I used to give free. But here we have not started, but we can do free. I have done some few, which has personal request, which has come. But we can do free of cost these things, but they can go to the private agency, we will do, but they take heavy charges, 3,000 or more.
There's a question from Meenu Dhama. Can HPV infection get transferred from mother to baby?
Yes, that is possible. And that is why we said that when the young girls, 5, 6, 7 years, girls positive, we do not know, she might have, during where there is a uterine delivery or vaginal delivery, there is a possibility that one can get it. But if it is a cesarean, less chances.
So there is another question from Dr. Madhumita Ghosh. How frequent should the pap smear test to be done to rule out HPV infection? Should it be done more frequently in the age?
No. It's right. Very good question. I have no time to spell many things. So in Barsi, in Bombay, there is a study, huge study, 12-year study they have done, published in Nature, Lancet, that once you do one screening at the age of 30, 35, then the cervical cancer comes down 50% down. So people are those who are, so it is not, if you take a test, for example, 30 or 35 years once, then if you are negative, you should not bother. You should at least 5 years or 3 years after you can do. Not frequently, not necessarily.
And she was also asking the HPV vaccine, if taken, will it work against all HPV strains? But I think you covered that, which strains it will cover.
Yeah, there will at least nonavalent if you take, that will, but 16, 11, 16 and 18, that is the major agent, but they can cross protect also some other virus infection, Irish virus.
So Dr. Ridesh Prakash has many questions, but I will take a few. I think which is prevalent here, that how females with PCOS respond to infection. Is there any relation with that?
I couldn't get your question.
Sir, how females with PCOS
Okay.
would respond to infection?
PCOD?
PCOD, yes, sir.
PCOD. PCOD.
Yeah.
You see, there it is not related to the PCOD, but suddenly genital hygiene is very important. But someone is not doing that, so it can happen to anybody. Not necessarily that increased. So far, there is so far no report that if someone is having PCOD, they are having more chances of HPV infection. But one can do a study also. We were talking yesterday with you,
Yes,
so
yes,
one can look at.
Yes.
One can look at that there is a viral etiology is there because of the fact nowadays a lot of cases of PCOD coming, and women are generally suspected to have infection. As I told, 80% of the women in their lifetime, anytime they can have some infection.
So
but
it
they
has been
get
said that 1 in 3 women is got PCOD these days.
yes,
Out of
yes.
three, one has got it. So that's a
But
very
one can look at it. I think we can do a study on that.
Yes, yes, sir. So another question I'll take from him, that whether insulin and ER signaling components are helpful for retaining virus in the infected cells during persistent infection. So he's talking about insulin and ER signaling, estrogen receptor signaling, if these would help in retaining the virus.
I do not know. There is not much study on that. There is no such report in the market.
Okay.
So to my understanding, it has a distant relation. I do not think it will, but it is a research question rather.
Yes. Yes.
There is no for such publications on this.
So there's one question from Dr. Subhash Chandra. As discussed, most of the research groups focus HPV 16 and 18. While I observed other high-risk HPV subtypes also responsible for causing cervical cancer, unfortunately, researchers not considering other subtypes. Even a paper from Iran claimed other subtypes prone are prone compared to HPV 16 and 18. So your comments, sir?
Yeah, you see, generally 80 to 90% are covered by HPV 16 and 18.
Yes.
So if you wants to take care of the 90% rather than the other 10%. So this is what the main principle. So majority is with the 16 and 18, but one can do. But it is also suspected that if you take the 16, 18 and 6 and 11 vaccine, so the other type may, this will be suppressed, but other type may come up.
Yes.
They have an opportunity to, that's why nonavalent, 9-valent vaccine is also developed. But there is not much difference with both the vaccine, but all throughout the country, world over, it is the 16 and 18 is the mostly the vaccine has been taken, these two vaccine. It is only a year back this nonavalent has come, but rest they almost more than 100 or 150 countries are with these 16 and 18.
One cells, which is our favorite. So the question from Sanjay Chakraborty, hype about cord blood cells or stem cells being used in form of cancer. Is there a way of using embryonic stem cell or adult stem cell as a possible therapeutic strategy for cervical cancer? We know that cancer stem cell model is being studied extensively to understand maybe.
Clear nahi hua, but as I
It's
understand,
basically he is asking if we can use embryonic stem cell or adult stem cell as a therapeutic target or therapeutic strategy for cervical cancer.
that is, I do not think here cervical cancer you cannot use the, but it is important to that cervical cancer relapses because as I told, the picture I have shown, they are the transformation zone, squamocolumnar junction, where the new cells are forming, and there the stem cell exists there. And if they contain the HPV in that, then they will live up to the cancer. So, but if there is no infection, so it develops every time there is a transformation zone, and that is always the new cells are being produced. And but if there is infection there, so they will be having the HPV infection. But if you give the stem cell, but where do you give that stem cell? So this is a tumor. It is not that you inject this normal cells, stem cell, but that is not in this case. It will be very difficult, to my mind.
Yes, sir. So another question, or last question from Dilip Upadhyay. Can we use CRISPR-Cas13 for developing diagnostics for cancer? CRISPR-Cas13 for developing diagnostics for cancer.
We have used diagnostic is not, we did not to go for so expensive. Why? It's a good question, but then it is not necessarily to go for a detection. You can easily detect by all cytological, all DNA PCR, but why at all you use CRISPR-Cas9? What I have shown, the CRISPR-Cas9 as well as CRISPR-13A, CRISPR and Cas13A for the degradation or the degradation or the what you call cleaving the E6 and E7, which is mainly responsible for cervical cancer, because they are the viral oncogene. They only transform the cells after having integrated. So rather than going for a detection, that can be approach, can be used, which we have done to cleave this viral oncogene. Once there is viral oncogene is stopped, but our approach is what we do is that since this virus oncogene replication or expression and further transformation depends on E6 and E7 expression, and that depends on AP1. We are controlling through AP1. So like that, if you use that CRISPR-Cas9 system to control or as an inhibitor or as an intervention, that will be more effective than the diagnosis. Diagnosis is generally done by very standard procedure.
Yes, sir. And they are cost effective as well.
Yeah, they are cost effective, yes.
So Hridesh Prakash sir wants me to take this question, so I will take it. Whether MHC1 based vaccination done in preventing the spread of the infection, example tetramer, aptamer based vaccination. So he's asking, can we use MHC based vaccination like tetramer, aptamer based vaccination for cervical cancer?
That I do not know. I have not come across such papers. But one can do it if it is immunologically can control the viral gene expression.
Yes, yes.
So generally in case of where the cancer relapses, because they escape the immune surveillance, and then stem cell is there, so they will relapse. But certainly immunity does play a role in cancer. So if that immune surveillance, it can stop or it can inhibit the viral transcription through this immune surveillance, then it is possible.
Yes. And the last question from our own Dr. Simran Tandon, she's asking, can persistent HPV infection be an indicator for future infections by other DNA viruses, and hence controlling HOV at an early age is very important, maybe a good strategy? So what she wants to say that right. So if somebody is having persistent HPV infection, would they be more prone to other DNA viruses infection? And having a vaccination at an early age would be a good strategy, so future DNA virus infections could be prevented. So that's her question.
No, generally we take hepatitis B virus. It is introduced already. Yes. But one can take at the 8, 9, 10 years age, one can easily give the HPV vaccine. But it will increase if there is a persistent infection. Infection persistent means, as you have told already, that when there is a virus infection, 90% gets removed by body's immune system. So infection is persisting means there is a lack of immune surveillance. So that may help to other virus too. That is a good question. So that may open to other viruses to get in, because since one virus is already in, it is because of the immune surveillance has failed. It has not been able to clear. Because generally 90% immediately within a week or two, it will be clear. That's why it is suggested that you do the, when you are little, whether you have symptoms or not, it's a general, I'll say, we generally see, tell in all meetings and everywhere, by 30-35, one should do one pap smear screening and a possible HPV. Then you are very clear. It is no stigma, no bad thing in it. So generally, those who are educated, those who are very enlightened, US and Europe, everybody, every women, they themselves go and just get it, because as you know, they have a the gynae insurance is separate, so they go and get it tested, pap smear. So then you are very sure that the things are not there. So it is just to rule out.
Okay, so I'll have a question session. Thank you so much, sir. And I think this was very, very.
You can call Selvamurthy was there.
Yes, yes, I will just call Selvamurthy, sir. Selvamurthy, sir, are you there, sir?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I think maybe I will ask him to, when he comes,
just
and
he
take
came,
his remarks. Okay. Then we can continue with our session, sir. Okay.
Dhruv?
Yeah, ma'am. Please.
Please see, Dr.
Conclude.
Yes.
Dr. Selvamurthy sir is not online now. I think sir has some other meeting. So yeah.
Okay, sorry, उनको अभी opportunity दे रहा था. I didn't know that he'll go out. Anyhow, so from my side, thanks you all. Before you give thanks, and I thank all the participants, those who are participating and listen to this. So anything, any clarification you can do. There are a lot can be done, but it is important that in the country we should spread the awareness. So though there is no national immunization program, but we can easily get the vaccine. You have to get in touch with the private pediatrician or a gynecologist. So it is good to adolescent girls to be given, because their immunity titer is very high. Antibody titer is very high, and they quickly develop, and they are rather it will be excellent to give that age, but one has to be there should be a awareness about it. So this is the few things I can tell you, and
sir,
thank you so much for.
Thank you so much, sir. I'll stay quickly to our panelists to hear from us. Actually, our time is running short, so we might have to close. But I would just like to hear Dr. Pankaj, sir. Please.
Yes, panelist comments.
Yes. First of all, like we always love hearing sir with his vast knowledge on cervical cancer. It is just that I wanted to add, and we've tried to work it out, that there is a role for oxidative stress in cervical cancer as it is for all cancer. One probably role in
थोड़ा loud बोलो, सुनाई नहीं दे रहा.
Yes, feeble, sir.
That is, and one thing. Second thing is there is always high. There is definitely a role for oxidative stress in cervical cancer. It is as it is for all cancers. One is the role of oxidative damage of the DNA, which allows the integration of the E6 and the E7. Second is the role of reactive oxygen species in drug resistance, and the successful use of curcumin is, we know that curcumin is an antioxidant, and Das sir has been using it for sensitization because it tries to overcome drug resistance by reducing oxidative stress. So that is something that I want to add. And thank you, Dr. Das,
so
again for an excellent talk.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Sir,
Thank you.
you are an expert in RNA biology. Anything you would like to add, please, shortly? Dr. Amit?
Yeah. I think most of the part has been already covered by Das sir. So I can add that this long non-coding RNAs also play a very important role, and especially Das sir also has studied the microRNAs which target these E6 and E7 genes. So what we can do is we can look from the approach of long non-coding RNAs also, and see whether these can help to become as an antisense for these E6 or E7. So that will come from the RNA part from my side, I think.
Thank you. So that's
Rest
the.
all we
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Manoj, sir, some genomics? Dr. Manoj?
Yes, yes. So I know Das sir from last 15-16 year when I was doing my PhD in NII. So my PhD topic was cervical cancer. So that time we approached sir like how we can correlate Spag9 expression with the HPV infection, but somehow we were too busy with other thing, cannot do it at that time point. And when I come to know that Das sir is at Met Institute of Molecular Medicine and Stem Cell Research, so I immediately move over here. So the one thing which I noticed nowadays, that like there are many studies in the Nature from very big groups that they have sequenced the whole genome actually to find out that what are the mutation, what are the amplification, what are the deletion in the HPV infected genome. And they find out that there is PI3 kinase mutation, which activate the PI3 kinase signaling. And there are amplification of the immune suppressor, PDL1 and PDL2. And as Amit pointed out, non-coding RNA. So there is amplification of the non-coding RNA, which is BCAR. So I think if I look into the total, every signaling and these immune suppression, that basically, as Das sir already point out, that E6 and E7 plays a major role in this signaling as well as the immune escape. So I think it will be better if we so the curcumin is kind of a molecule which basically work on all these signaling, which the evidence is coming from the recent research for the immune evasion. So I think it will be better if we can integrate AP1 with the PDL1 and PDL2, and then let's see how the non-coding also affect the APV expression. And for non-coding part, genome editing.
I'm sorry, I will have to interrupt. Sorry, I have to interrupt. Thank you so much. That is
Thanks.
a
Very good.
piece
Thanks.
of
Good,
research that we can go. I will hand over to Dhruv sir to conclude. Dhruv sir? Dr. Dhruv?
Ma'am, he is disconnected.
Oh, okay. So, I thank all the panelists, all the Professor Das for excellent talk, and Dr. Selvamurthy as well for his blessings to us. And I thank everyone, also the IT team for helping us to conduct this session. Thank you, everyone, and sorry for the pushing on through the time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Ma'am,
Thank
can I
you so
close the
much.
session?
All the best.
Yes,
Thank you.
please close the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All the panelists and Dr. Selvamurthy is